The room erupted into tension the moment Jasmine Crockett took the podium. Eyes widened, phones were raised. Every journalist, every political observer, sensed that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Across from her, a Republican politician, confident and dismissive, leaned back in his chair, convinced he held the upper hand. But Crockett's gaze was steady, unyielding, and electric, an intensity that spoke louder than any prepared speech. Her opening words sliced through the hum of whispered commentary. We cannot continue to let incompetence masquerade as leadership. The room went silent. A few mouths opened, then closed. Some journalists scribbled frantically. Some viewers watching online froze mid-scroll. The words weren't just criticism. They were a challenge, a public unmasking of a figure long touted as powerful, but quietly feared as ineffectual. The Republican shifted uncomfortably, a flicker of doubt flashing across his face. Crockett's voice didn't waver. Every syllable landed with precision, calculated to provoke not just awareness, but reflection. The nation was watching, and she knew it. Cameras panned, capturing every micro-expression. Smirks fading, eyes narrowing, the thin veneer of confidence cracking. It was a moment when preparation, courage, and integrity collided in real time. Social media, even before the hearing had ended, was already reacting. Clips were looping. Memes were forming. Hashtags were trending. The audience wasn't just watching. They were validating, sharing, debating, feeling the power of a truth spoken without hesitation. The stakes weren't just political. They were personal. For every immigrant, every advocate for justice, every citizen tired of empty rhetoric, this was a confirmation. Someone was willing to stand up uncompromisingly for what was right. And yet, even in that silence, the tension thrummed like a heartbeat in the room. The Republicans' composure was fraying, and the crowd could feel it. This wasn't merely a clash of words. It was a seismic shift in perception, a harbinger of confrontation and revelation. And as Crockett paused, letting the weight of her statement sink in, everyone knew this was just the beginning. The moment that followed would leave the entire nation holding its breath, waiting to see what happened next. The tension in the room didn't fade. It thickened. Every eye turned to Jasmine Crockett as she began to lay out the stakes. Each word deliberate, each pause magnifying the moment. This wasn't just another political debate. This was a defining moment for accountability, integrity, and the values that America claimed to uphold. She reminded the audience and the Republican across from her that the consequences of failure were real, tangible, and undeniable. Crockett recounted a series of missteps and miscalculations that had long been ignored, painting a picture of leadership that was reckless, arrogant, and unprepared. She didn't merely list facts. She wove a narrative, one that exposed not just incompetence but the real human cost of it. Lives impacted, public trust eroded, and a nation forced to question its own institutions. Each example landed like a carefully aimed strike, and the room could feel the weight pressing down on the once confident opponent. Social media chatter intensified as clips of her remarks began circulating. Audiences across the country felt the sting of her words and the truth behind them. For viewers who had long sought representation, her voice became a mirror reflecting their frustrations and hopes. She wasn't just speaking. She was validating, energizing, and inspiring. And just as the room seemed to hold its collective breath, Crockett leaned forward, eyes locked on the Republican. "What happens next," she said, her voice calm yet unwavering, "will determine whether leadership stands for truth or crumbles under its own illusions." A shiver ran through the chamber. The stage was set. The nation was watching, and the confrontation that would leave everyone speechless was about to begin. The Republican sitting across from Jasmine Crockett wasn't just another politician. He was the embodiment of arrogance carefully cloaked in authority. For years, he had built a persona of confidence, presenting himself as a master of policy and procedure. Yet behind the polished veneer lay a record riddled with contradictions, misjudgments, and opportunism. Every speech he delivered was designed to impress, but every misstep, every avoided answer, revealed the cracks in his carefully constructed armor. His history wasn't hidden. Journalists had documented it. Opponents had criticized it, and yet he persisted, relying on bravado rather than substance. Past hearings, statements, and moments of deflection formed a mosaic of overconfidence. He thrived on dismissing dissent, laughing off scrutiny, and portray himself as untouchable. But in that room, facing Crockett, the same tactics that had once protected him now seemed fragile, almost brittle. Crockett didn't attack blindly. She studied every move, every past failure, and the audience could sense her preparation. She exposed his contradictions with subtle precision, illustrating not just policy gaps, but the arrogance that allowed them to persist. The contrast was undeniable. A figure clinging to image versus a hero anchored in integrity and truth. Even as the Republican attempted to regain composure, there was an unmistakable shift. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, a micro-expression that betrayed the doubt brewing behind his forced calm. The room, once respectful and restrained, now hummed with anticipation. Spectators, both in the chamber and online, could feel the tension rise like electricity. And as Crockett's eyes locked onto him, a silent truth hung in the air. The era of unchecked arrogance had met its reckoning. What came next wouldn't just challenge him. It would define him. The stage was set, and the audience was on the edge of their seats, waiting for the confrontation to explode. Jasmine Crockett's story wasn't born in the gilded halls of power. It was forged in struggle, resilience, and a relentless pursuit of justice. Her journey had been marked by obstacles that would broken lesser individuals, yet each challenge strengthened her resolve. From her early days advocating for marginalized communities to her rise in public service, Crockett had built a reputation on courage, integrity, and unwavering commitment to truth. She understood the stakes personally. Every decision she had made, every moment she had chosen principle over popularity, had prepared her for the confrontation unfolding now. Her life was a testament to perseverance, navigating complex political systems, advocating for those whose voices were ignored, and standing firm in the face of intimidation. Her identity, her heritage, and her dedication to fairness shaped her perspective, giving her the clarity and conviction needed to expose hypocrisy when it appeared. In the chamber, her calm presence radiated authority. While her opponent relied on bluster, Crockett's confidence came from preparation, experience, and a moral compass that refused compromise. She wasn't just debating a politician. She was embodying the hopes and frustrations of millions who had long felt overlooked, dismissed, or silenced. Every word she spoke carried the weight of her journey and the authenticity of lived experience. The audience could feel it, the quiet power that comes from someone who knows their worth and their purpose. It wasn't arrogance. It was undeniable competence paired with empathy. As she adjusted her stance and prepared to respond to the Republicans' next move, a hush fell over the room. The contrast between them had never been clearer. A seasoned, principled hero against a faltering figure propped up by bravado. And in that charged silence, the world seemed to lean forward, knowing that what happened next would not just be a debate. It would be a defining moment, one that could shift perception and inspire countless others to rise with courage. The tension in the room reached a fever pitch as the debate escalated. The Republican, still reeling from Crockett's precise and unyielding opening, attempted to regain control. His voice, once steady and commanding, now carried an edge of irritation, a subtle crack that the audience could feel immediately. He launched into a pointed critique, each word designed to provoke, to test Crockett's composure and challenge her credibility. But she did not flinch. Crockett's eyes met his, calm yet piercing, her posture unwavering. Every phrase he threw felt like a spark in a powder keg, but she responded with measured clarity, dismantling his assertions piece by piece. Her rhetoric was surgical, factual, pointed, yet imbued with moral weight. Where he sought to intimidate, she exposed arrogance. Where he relied on theatrics, she presented evidence. The room seemed to vibrate with the clash of their energies, the invisible battle between ego and integrity. As the verbal volley intensified, the Republican grew visibly agitated. Fingers tapped nervously, his jaw tightened, and brief lapses in confidence flickered across his face. Each time he tried to interrupt or assert dominance, Crockett countered with calm precision, refusing to be baited. The audience, both live and online, could sense an imbalance. Every pause she took, every measured breath, amplified the impact of her words. The drama was palpable, and viewers felt like a current running through the air, electrifying the moment. Social media erupted in real time. Clips of her sharp retorts were shared widely. Hashtags began trending, and commentators dissected every phrase. For millions of viewers, it wasn't just a political clash. It was validation. Validation for those who had long sought representation, who had long hoped for someone to confront arrogance without fear or compromise. Her words became a rallying point, a symbol that integrity and preparation could dismantle posturing and bluster. And yet, the climax was still building. Crockett's next line, calm but forceful, carried a weight that went beyond policy or politics. Leadership, she said, is measured not by titles or theatrics, but by courage, accountability, and the impact we leave on the people we serve. The Republican smirk faltered, replaced by a tense stillness that rippled through the chamber. It was a turning point, the moment when imbalance of power shifted irreversibly. The audience leaned in collectively, aware that the moment of reckoning, the mic drop, the undeniable exposure of arrogance, was imminent. The room held its breath. Every eye was fixed on Crockett, every heart pulsing with anticipation. This was no longer a debate. It was a performance of integrity against hubris, a battle that would be remembered, replayed, and shared. And as she prepared to deliver the words that would leave the nation stunned, the air seemed to quiver with expectation. The confrontation had escalated to its apex, and the world waited, suspended, for the moment that would define it all. Crockett leaned forward, her calm demeanor amplifying the tension in the chamber. Every eye was fixed on her as she began her counterattack, not with anger, but with precision. She spoke slowly, deliberately, letting each word land like a hammer striking truth against arrogance. "It's not enough to claim authority," she said, "if you cannot wield it with integrity, foresight, and accountability." The Republican shifted uneasily, the confidence he had clung to for years beginning to crumble under the weight of her scrutiny. Her words didn't merely expose mistakes. They painted a larger narrative of responsibility and ethical leadership. Crockett cited documented missteps, inconsistencies, and moments of negligence, weaving them into a coherent story that left no room for denial. The audience could feel the impact. The chamber was silent except for her voice, resonant and unwavering. Every pause she took, every deliberate glance, magnified the effect, giving the moment an almost cinematic intensity. Social media ignited instantly. Clips of her takedown circulated in real time, drawing millions of reactions, hashtags, and trending commentary. People everywhere felt a surge of validation, pride, and inspiration. Crockett wasn't just confronting a politician. She was confronting a system that too often rewarded arrogance over competence. The Republican attempted a response, but faltered, his rehearsed lines crumbling in the shadow of her relentless clarity. The contrast was stark. One figure trembling under exposure, the other composed, confident, and resolute. Crockett's final words landed like a mic drop, resonating far beyond the chamber. Leadership is earned through courage and service, not entitlement or empty rhetoric. The room seemed to pause, suspended in awe. In that moment, it was clear the narrative had shifted. The hero had spoken truth to power, leaving the opponent rattled and the audience electrified. And as the nation watched, social media buzz, and commentators reacted, one fact remained undeniable. This confrontation was far from over, and the ripple effects were only beginning to unfold. The moment Crockett delivered her mic drop, the world reacted instantly. Clips of the exchange exploded across social media, shared and reshared in rapid succession. Hashtags trended nationwide. Memes circulated highlighting the stark contrast between arrogance and integrity. Viewers flooded platforms with comments praising her courage, analyzing every word, and celebrating her unwavering composure. It wasn't just a political moment. It had become a cultural event, a symbol of truth confronting ego. News outlets scrambled to cover the fallout. Analysts dissected the exchange, debating the implications for leadership and accountability. Talk shows replayed her lines in slow motion, emphasizing the sharpness of her delivery and the precision of her arguments. Celebrities and influencers joined the conversation, amplifying the reach and resonance of her words. The debate chamber had become a stage not only for policy but for validation, inspiration, and collective reflection. For audiences who had long felt marginalized or overlooked, Crockett's performance was profoundly affirming. It validated their experiences, their frustrations, and their hopes for leaders who act with integrity. Parents shared clips with children. Activists posted analyses, and educators highlighted her poise as an example of fearless, principled leadership. Across communities, the moment ignited conversations about courage, fairness, and the power of standing up for truth, reinforcing her role as more than politician, as a symbol of dignity and resolve. Yet, even amid the viral buzz, the tension lingered. The Republican opponent, still reeling from the confrontation, attempted damage control, but the momentum had shifted irreversibly. The nation had witnessed the fallibility of arrogance and the triumph of preparation, composure, and moral clarity. And as viewers everywhere absorbed the shockwaves, one reality became undeniable. This wasn't just a headline. It was the beginning of a story whose consequences would ripple far beyond that room, leaving everyone wondering what the next chapter will hold. In the quiet that followed the storm of debate, Jasmine Crockett's words echoed far beyond chamber walls. She had not only confronted arrogance, but reframed the moment into a universal truth. Leadership is measured by courage, integrity, and service, not titles or theatrics. For millions watching, her composure and clarity became a blueprint for how truth and principle can dismantle ego and entitlement. Crockett transformed conflict into inspiration. Her actions reminded viewers that standing firm in one's values requires preparation, resilience, and an unwavering belief in justice. Every pause, every deliberate word, had reinforced a deeper message. Integrity matters, and speaking truth to power is both possible and necessary. Audiences felt validated, inspired, and motivated. Communities across social media celebrated not just the debate, but the symbolism behind it. The triumph of dignity over arrogance, of preparation over posturing. The moment was more than politics. It was a call to action for anyone who had ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or silenced. As the nation reflected, one truth became clear. Courage resonates, integrity endures, and a single voice of conviction can ignite waves of change. And in that lingering stillness, the audience was left with an undeniable lesson. Leadership is not claimed. It is earned through actions that uplift, inspire, and honor the people it serves. The confrontation had ended, but the impact was only beginning. Jasmine Crockett had left a Republican speechless, exposed arrogance, and reminded the nation of what true leadership looks like. For viewers, the lesson was clear. Integrity, courage, and preparation always outshine bluster and entitlement. At Argument Arena, we celebrate moments like this, moments where truth confronts power, where principles are defended, and where the people's voice is amplified. Crockett's stand isn't just a political victory. It's a symbol for everyone who believes in fairness, dignity, and standing up against injustice. If you felt inspired, validated, or energized by this showdown, don't let the conversation end here. Share this video with friends. Comment your thoughts, and let your voice be part of the dialogue. Every like, every share, every discussion keeps moments like this alive, reminding leaders everywhere that accountability matters. Subscribe to Argument Arena to stay updated on the most dramatic, eye-opening political moments, and witness firsthand how courage, truth, and conviction shape the world around us. The story doesn't stop here. It's part of a larger movement, and you could be part of it. Because at the end of the day, real power lies not in titles or posturing, but in speaking, standing, and acting with integrity.